I don't like Bleach. Now look, I didn't grow up with Bleach. My earliest memory of Bleach was seeing a teenager with a PSP watching an edgy Bleach AMV and asking him, is that a game? To which he just laughed at me. So, you know, I just stuck to my Naruto when I was a little kid. Later on, I read One Piece, and I loved every single step of the experience. The story is magical, and the world building is so full of rich lore and complicated politics that will immerse you into this world. Yeah, it seems very simple and goofy. It looks like it's just a fun pirate story about a treasure, but it's about how far they go for their dreams that's truly inspirational. I can't say that much about Bleach, though. I read all of it, and I don't really care about it. Like, at all. I was at least very invested in the fights of the Soul Society, and the themes of teenagers entering the cruel adult world was a subject perfect for the shonen demographic. But this story lacks that oomph that makes you really like these characters. Ichigo's just some guy, but he isn't just some guy in the inspirational and relatable and charming type of way. He's some guy who happens to be a Soul Reaper and a Hollow and a Fullbringer, and apparently unable to be defeated because every time he's about to lose, he pulls out a new form. My first problem with Bleach comes in: repetitive fights and story. So many of these fights suck ass. It is quite literally a glimpse and repeat of two guys fighting. Person A is losing to person B, so person A activates a new form. Then person B starts losing to person A, and then person B activates a new form. Then once again, person A is losing to person B, and they activate a new fucking form. Now, this may sound like an exaggeration, and it is, but this very same scenario actually happens in an arc. There is no stakes in this story, or it doesn't feel like they are. The Soul Society arc starts by a female lead being kidnapped, and the mission of that arc is to save her. You know, cool, damsel in distress story, it's fine. Nothing wrong with it. We've seen it 20 times, why not see it one more time? And then for the Arranca arc, the story has a female lead being kidnapped, and Ichigo's mission is to save her. Understand the trend of repetition here, right? Like, I'm not the only one seeing it, correct? And I understand it's a common complaint, and like, yeah, these arcs differ, but through formula, they are so similar. It doesn't feel like mirroring, it feels lazy. Ichigo is, in my opinion, a really boring character. I'm sorry, but this character has so little characterization. His only struggle is that he feels as though he can't protect his friends, when none of his friends have ever been mortally wounded because he's been able to save them. Even when he activates Vastalord, everyone's completely fine. He doesn't hurt anyone. Ichigo loses his powers and gets them back in the next arc, the Fullbringer arc, which is the second to last arc in the story. This arc is about Ichigo regaining his powers and fighting a new big bad. It feels very self-contained, but without anyone learning a lesson from it. Ichigo doesn't really learn anything from this arc except a new form and getting his powers back. As for the rest, the Soul Reapers come in and easily beat the new enemies, which is, again, the problem. This man never loses. This is a problem much bigger than Bleach. Having your main character lose is as equally important as having them win. You must show them at their weakest to truly achieve a highest. If you have them going after whoever he wants and eventually beating them, you won't give the viewer any real stakes to worry about. If they know that Ichigo will simply unlock a new form to win against the next foe, the threat of something being lost is gone. The answer to this is very easy, actually. Have them lose. One Piece and Hunter x Hunter are great examples of defeat for the sake of increasing stakes. Gon gets his ass constantly slapped. This man has to have the worst winner-losing ratio of any shonen main character. So what does that mean to when he actually wins? Oh, it hits. It hits, man. And he doesn't simply win. He also faces the consequences of said victory to their truest extent. For One Piece, Luffy is constantly shown overpowering the enemy, but the story makes it clear that he is nowhere near the strongest character in the story. He's just gotten really lucky so far. So what happens when he's forced to fight someone stronger than him? Well, simple as day. He loses. No saving moment or regaining powers immediately after defeat. He loses. After that, he tries to save his brother from a wave of people far stronger than him, and once again, he loses. Luffy may have plot armor, but even that can only go so far. This cold reality enhances the experience and raises the stakes even higher than they ever were. I love it. And with Bleach, there's no stakes in this story, or it doesn't feel like they are. Characters don't really die, and the cast is so damn big that you don't have the chance to get to know any of them. My favorite character is Mayuri, this messed up scientist who abuses his daughter/experiment and tortures many. Now, don't get me wrong, this person's horrible, and I would never interact with someone like this, but he's kind of funny. Mayuri is the type of character who is impossible to sympathize with, but you still find ways to understand where he's coming from. At one point in the story, he's fighting another scientist who claims to have found what he believes to be immortality. He claims to be a perfect being. And the art The art is good. It's fun to see Kubo genuinely improve his character designs throughout the story. You know, ignoring the fact that the amount of white space he uses is so overwhelming that at times you forget where the fight was taking place in the first place, or two different places that vastly different from one another end up looking exactly the same. But the art is good. This anime was the entire reason why I sat through all of Bleach. And now, how do I feel about it? You know, I've always been a big Bleach fan. Bleach is peak fiction. Ichigo's my favorite character. No, but seriously, this show is really good. You can honestly branch out the first episode into two different topics. The first half is pretty fan-servicey. A Soul Reaper is being chased down by a batch of CGI Shinigamis, which admittedly is my only complaint with the episode. So Ichigo and the gang show up. Ichigo goes Bankai and uses the Getsuga Tensho on these nothing hollows, but hey, it looks good and it feels good. This is the comeback after the Bleach anime ended 10 years ago. I get it, and man, it looks great. But the latter half is where it's at. Some guys pull up to the headquarters of the Soul Society's main dude. They drop a decapitated head on the floor and say, "This is war, my guy." They're an ancient race of people that were seemingly wiped from existence years ago. But it's revealed that some of them are alive. And this twist works really well because we already have a member of this race. Uryu, Ichigo's nerd friend. The Quincy's warn the old man to prepare for this fight, to which the old man simply says, while this is going on, Ichigo's fighting a guy that starts spitting in German, and oh my god, the parallel editing! Production. The production of this anime is absolutely insane. I don't even want to start thinking about how much it cost to create this single episode. The detail in the backgrounds are so good. This is how the background looked like in the manga, and this is how it looks like now. You can't even compare the two. I finally have an idea of where the characters are fighting, and I can now enjoy both the character designs and the fight scene. There's a back and forth between Ichigo and Yamamoto. Both scenes constantly reward the impact and tension of one another. I love reflection shots, and when they hit me with the shot of the helmet, oh my god! This is not the first time I've seen an anime from this director. Taguchi also worked on Akudama Drive, a cyberpunk anime that fused many aspects common in the cyberpunk aesthetic with Buddhism and thriller films. Taguchi loves to apply these vibrant colors that make the smallest scenes feel memorable and large in scale. He can grab two characters that have had little to no development and give them the most beautiful, groundbreaking fight you'll ever see. Taguchi is a genius of color, and seeing him carry that same energy to the Bleach anime fills me with determination. We got our introduction to the villain of the arc, and already by his entrance, I have a feeling I'll enjoy his character. The episode ends with a sweet AMV showcasing the moments leading up to this arc, and although I don't feel any real personal attachment, it made me excited for what's to come. It gives me a reminder of what happened before this arc, so it helps refresh the viewer's mind. Certainly a lot better than, you know, an AMV that spoils the biggest moment of the arc being adapted. But anyways, back to Bleach. The second episode starts with the main villain from an upside down angle. Weird, right? I mean, is this like his new power or something? You know, the camera, it twists around a little and it shows you that it's a reflection shot from the pool of blood, and they are out to get me. They know how much I love reflections. Reflections showcase the creative ability of the director. One of my favorite fight sequences is in the Suicide Squad, not that one, the good one. There's a fight scene between two characters in which the camera is strictly pointing at a helmet that shows the fight going on outside the screen. These types of scenes challenge the viewer and what they think can be done with a camera. This is just one reason I love this episode of Bleach. But wait, there's more. The story still continues to be as strong and fast-paced as the previous episode, skipping a lot of the unfunny humor and instead focusing on the significant moments. Regarding the Quincy's, aka the bad guys, there's a very clear influence in a Germany period of time with the sign, you know, with the guy that Kanye West really likes. It's interesting seeing Kubo take such a realistic turn on the treatment of the people and world surrounding Ichigo and his friends. Although nothing interesting is done with our main characters, the action scenes in this episode were short but surprising. There are three horses running the story at the moment. You have the villain, who's sitting in the throne getting ready to invade the Soul Society, the Soul Society itself preparing itself for war, and Ichigo fighting a simple Quincy in Hueco Mundo while the war is soon to commence. All these aspects are linked, and the way they interact with each other is really exciting. But as the show went went on, I started noticing some things. It's not as consistent as I would hope it to be. For example, the third episode. According to my sources, aka a random person on Twitter, they brought back the old staff to work on this episode, and it shows. The amount of exposition was insane. There's a point that Ichigo's nerd friend finds a book that reveals all the secrets about his bloodline and his father that he never knew. Or this character that literally shows up to explain how Hollows, Soul Reapers, and Quincy's work and why the Quincy's were killed, which we already knew. But I get it, you know, reminding the viewer. Also, I thought it was kind of cool how he got sliced in half. But this explanation goes on for so long that it gradually affects the pacing of the episode, and hearing this man speak feels like a task itself. What's the point of telling the viewer every little thing when the viewer can easily figure it out for themselves? Oh, okay. He's not gonna explain how his powers work. It's simply fight. You know, I like that. Wait. Why are you explaining your powers? He's gonna figure you out, dude. Why are they going back and forth with the same two clips for so long? Is it over? Oh. No. It's still going on. And the characters that got demolished at the end of the last episode are completely fine. This episode was underwhelming, but the finale was still quite impressive. And Mayuri literally scorned his superior in the most powerful scene in the Soul Society. And the appearance of the pretty boys of the Quincy race has me excited for more. I only like going into detail with the beginning episodes of a season just to avoid the main spoilers and all that. But my opinion on the latter half of the season is that it's again very good, but it's not consistent. Although some moments are full of excitement and craziness. And this fucking fight with Yamamoto and Yuhabak is the best fight I've ever seen this year. It's amazing. It's emotional. It's powerful. Everything it does, it's so impressive. And then the next episode, just as great. Ichigo fighting Yuhabak and getting his ass destroyed is a complete contradiction of what I was arguing against. Ichigo lost. His Messiah complex actually got damaged this time. Because Ichigo wasn't strong enough, a lot of people died. And that's amazing. I like that. This is such an interesting turn with Ichigo's character. I can't wait what they do with it. I do have my complaints with the Unohana twist. I think it should have been foreshadowed better. I never felt a relationship between Kenpachi and Unohana, and they treat the twist itself as a staple, as a reveal to us, but that everyone else in the story knew. It's possible to make it look really good, but I don't think it worked this time. I genuinely think that it would have been better if we knew in the first place. I think that's my problem with Bleach in general. It's that things are not built up, things just happen, and you're supposed to feel as excited as if they were built up throughout hundreds and hundreds of chapters. Maybe the foreshadowing is too subtle for me. Maybe I'm just too stupid. But I don't like the way he plans story beats. But I think that's fine. After the big fights that honestly you should just watch for yourself. Yuhabak versus Yamamoto is the cleanest fight I think I've seen since Obito versus Kakashi. It's awesome. I love it so much. And the training arc has definitely been a little bit more boring and a little bit more dense than everything that was going on earlier during the war itself. I really like the war part because it's like it was so heavy in stakes, but we slowed down so much that it feels weird. I'm excited to see what they do with Kenpachi and what they do with Ichigo and his whole being a Quincy thing. Quincy's having a stable through all of the series, and I can't wait for what's to come. I'm always excited for the next week, and although I have my issues, Bleach, you have my heart. Now your only competition is... When I tell you that nothing has tested my patience like this episode did. This episode dropped in the middle of my class and I had no way of watching. Every second that I had to wait, I felt the urge to go on Twitter and look at the clips, but I waited. I waited because I wanted my raw reaction of it. And what do I think? Oh my god! This shit is the bomb. I already made a video on the Chainsaw Man anime because I couldn't wait until I was done with this video. But there's still some things I'd like to add about this first episode. Though a bit slow at the start, the scenery and camera shots were so creative. The use of CGI blends it quite well in a lot of scenes. So much so that most people can't tell what's CGI and what's 2D. But when the CGI was noticeable, it looked a little bit lackluster. My favorite scene of the episode is this entirely made up zombie chase scene. It's shot in a way much more similar to a movie than anime. creating heavy emphasis on cuts used for action and wider shots showcasing the surroundings. A lot of times in anime, to skip some movement, imagine action is completely skipped, but this anime follows through and through with such great care. This anime clearly understands the author's love of film, and the rest of the series just keeps proving that. The second episode, Denji meets the other characters, and I love the way he bounces from these characters. I made a whole video about the first 2 episodes. This adaptation has not failed me. There are 2 aspects of Chainsaw Man that I still haven't spoken about that I feel like I need to talk about. First of all, the opening. The opening is a tribute to a wide range of films that Fujimoto, the author, adores. The thought and detail in this opening is insane, and if I tried to unravel all of it, this video would be a lot longer. The voice actors really remind me what I love about Chainsaw Man. It's the ability to show all these characters, and the way they interact with one another is just superb. Little things such as Denji being annoyed by Power, but after looking at her breast doing a complete 180, or Denji feeling a deep connection to Makima that's genuine instead of Himeno, which he just met and doesn't feel any real attachment. It's this subversion of the typical that makes the story so special. Then Yanaki encounters this fiend, and instead of chopping him up with the good old Chainsaw Man action, Denji gives him a quick death. He gives the explanation that he could have ended up like the Fiend if things went wrong. This empathy is common between many shonen characters, Ichigo versus the bad guy from Fullbringer, or Naruto with almost every villain. This sympathy isn't bad, but it's done so many times that it doesn't create a reaction in the viewer. And Fujimoto knows this. Once Aki scolds him about how he shouldn't treat devils this way, Denji reveals why he didn't transform into Chainsaw Man, because the erotic magazines would have been filled with blood if he transformed. I love it. I love it. It's cinema. It's goated. It's raw. It's amazing. What makes Chainsaw Man so funny is that it avoided the big tropes around shonen humor. It doesn't have exaggerated character expressions and annoying loud talking. Chainsaw Man's humor is much more human and casual, which ends up bringing actual laughs out of you. But how faithful is it as an adaptation from the manga? Well, Chainsaw Man isn't a completely faithful adaptation. When you read the manga, you feel the connection between the manga and the author. With their rough designs and snarky attitude, the anime doesn't portray this, and it's not shooting for the same thing. It finds ways to portray the manga in its own way and stand as not only an adaptation, but a love letter to Fujimoto. A lot of the scenes focus on character are a lot slower and focus on the cinematic vibe to it, capturing that film essence that Fujimoto can't really show in a manga. Both are amazing passion projects filled with amazing sequences and exciting action, and I love the liberty the anime takes on the action. Action in anime and manga is very different. As I said in my previous video about Berserk, a good action sequence in a manga can be copy and pasted into the manga because it'll look like a lazy slideshow. Anime doesn't have dynamic panels to make this look entertaining, so what do? They rely on what they have over the manga. Movement. Although the Berserk anime does a half-assed job of doing its movement, making it feel less impactful than the original. Chainsaw Man focuses on the overall action sequences and how they can use the medium to their advantage. The way Denji moves in this bestial manner against this enormous beast is thrilling. But what they do best is that they don't focus on the wow panel until the very end. What I like to describe as the wow panel is a panel that shows the conclusion or big moment in a fight sequence. When Denji punches the bad devil, that's a wow panel. Wow panels are great when composing action for manga, but having too many of them in anime can end up with the animation being a bunch of stills. The Chainsaw Man anime keeps the wow moments, but instead of making them the focus, it touches more on the fluidity of the action. Look at the way Denji carries himself and hacks through the monster. It's cool, it's fun, it's crazy. And the endings? Don't get me started on these endings, man. Every ending has a different animation, different song, different artist, everything on it. And you get to see so many different artistic visuals for the same series. It's incredible. You can go from AMVs to something more akin to the Jujutsu Kaisen ending, to crazy disorganized music, or even in one of the latest episodes, have a blend of both real-life camera movement and animation, which looked absolutely stellar. My favorite one of these is Ending 3. This disorganized track full of shouting and demonic symbolism is perfect for the rough story Chainsaw Man is. I'm a big fan of Maximum the Hormone, and I always knew that there's not a band more fitting for Chainsaw Man. The connection of Makima being the Virgin Mary, the mother of all mothers, is perfect, because of course she's not this pure being, but then you sees her this way, and to some extent the viewer does too. Although none of the action is the best action I've ever seen in an anime, it manages to always be consistent. No episode feels like a slowdown, no episode feels like there was a cut in budget. It's just incredible. The movement, the action, the characters, the voice acting, everything, every single episode, it's so consistent. Every week I enjoy myself. My issues are so minute that they're not even worth pointing out. It can be slow at times, but I read the manga and my biggest issue was how fast it was. so I can really appreciate these slow moments. Like, I was not this attached to Aki before because we never slowed down for him. These training arcs are so creative and so fun. This is one of the few training arcs that has done this to me. I normally hate them. I hated them in Hunter x Hunter, and I love Hunter x Hunter. And Chainsaw Man just brings that balance. They're never lazy, and they're always pulling out such amazing productions. It's incredible. Chainsaw Man has absolutely killed it. Crazy part is that these couple of episodes are the weakest part of the story, if that has anything to say about the potential of the series. I'm just surprised by how good they've managed to make the series look and feel. Denji's voice actor is perfect, and it's only his first major role in the industry. This show is fun, and it hurts me that it's gonna have to leave, but I appreciate the quality so much that I'm more than willing to wait. So now, the challenge is between these two. These two exceeded my expectations, so having to choose one was really hard. I like films, and I also like anime. So when you apply both of these in a series, you have my full attention. Both Chainsaw Man and Bleach do this, but one of these has less problems than the other. Although the scenario in Bleach is incredibly interesting, a race coming back from revenge, it lacks narrative at times. Episode 3 started this trend of fear in my heart, and then 5 and 6 really proved me wrong. And then we kind of slowed down again, so it's been good. But Chainsaw Man has proved to me that even when you slow down, you can produce such great quality. Although I do quite enjoy it, in terms of consistency, Chainsaw Man is doing a much better job. As for fights, I have to go ahead and give it to Bleach. Bleach has had a large amount of fights, but the two most impressive ones so far have been Yuhabak versus Yamamoto and Yuhabak versus Ichigo. Yuhabak, they're putting all their money on you, man. These fights have been incredible. I've watched both of them at least 10 times. It reminds me of Soul Society and how emotional and exciting that arc was for me. But still, Chainsaw Man just got better after every single episode. Any doubts I had in my mind are almost gone. By the 8th or 9th episode, some CGI shots became one of my favorite parts of the episode, and they really helped create this dynamic feel that wouldn't be possible without it. Look how cool he looks standing there, man. He's just such a ladies man, bro. I love him. I wish the best for Bleach, and I really want to love it. But Chainsaw Man, through its fun and different characters, silly main character, and thrilling action sequences, it is clear that at least for this season, Chainsaw Man wins.
Wrap it up, I get the raw and I wrap it up, yeah. Snagging up, then with the beef I'ma stack it up.